I invite now my colleague Dan Petre, the Director General of the Romanian Diplomatic Institute, to address.
Thank you very much, Prof. Good colleague and friend. Well, it's started. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here. I know it's the hardship session right after the lunch and no extremely numerous shots of espresso. But thank you very much. I'm here. Well, thank you very much, President Constantinescu. We all, I think, 3 of the 4 speakers we served under him. It's becoming more or less a family affair during his presidency. Well, I'm sorry to tell you some things that I'm trying to also tell to my younger colleagues. World peace is not a problem for diplomats, it's a problem for the candidates of Miss World. Diplomats are not about world peace. Diplomats are pursuers of national interest. And there were here definitions, and President Constantinescu quoted the famous classical definition of war as politics by other means. And I would say, from time to time, diplomacy is war by other means, in the sense of negotiation, of talking, and but pursuing the same thing, which is naked national interest. I'm doing that differentiation, and I thank Ambassador Dobre for putting a little bit of structure in the field. When we're speaking traditional classical diplomacy, we're speaking sovereign actor to sovereign actor interaction, state to state. All diplomats are, by their nature, agents of state. But what's happening with 2nd tier, 3rd tier, 4th tier diplomacy? What's the use of it? First of all, and I think I'm remembering a panel that we shared with Mark Donfrit nearly 2 years ago in Krynica in the Tatra Mountains in Poland. Speaking about cultural diplomacy, I think we have to do 3 definitions and 3 fields. One is cultural diplomacy, and I think Ambassador Dobre spoke a lot about what is culture and public diplomacy. The other one is diplomacy through culture, which means that when agents of state cannot speak, people from other academia, arts, sports, can speak. And I'll give you 2 examples. One was the ping-pong diplomacy of Nixon, when they needed a certain, United States and China, early 70s, they needed a breakthrough, public breakthrough in their relation. And what they thought about was to organize a ping-pong competition. Well, it's very well known because it's part of Forrest Gump narrative. But there was another one, which was wrestling diplomacy, which was done in the early 2000s between the United States and Iran. If you know, Iran is one of the national traditional sports of Iran, is wrestling. So the United States packed apart some wrestlers into Tehran, and they have something like, you know, a certain interaction. It's very hard because there is no U.S. embassy, neither a U.S. section of interest in Tehran, and there is no Iranian embassy in the United States. Don't count the mission in the UN. So you have that. When Talleyrand was the great Minister of Foreign Affairs of Napoleon and post-Napoleon, was asked what will be your best argument in the negotiations in Vienna. It was the opening of the Vienna Congress in 1815. He said, my real secret weapon is Antonin Carême. Antonin Carême was the most famous French chef of the 19th century, well, the beginning of the 19th century. And he was so successful in organizing, well, everyone wanted to come to Tehran's table to taste Antonin Carême's, mostly he was a pastry chef, very novel. It was so powerful that the Prince Regent, the Prince of Wales, who was in fact managing Great Britain at that time because his father had a small problem, really bribed both, I think, Talleyrand and Carême, and he imported him into Britain, and Carême reformed the British food, because if not, we would have eaten always mutton boiled. It's about how do you facilitate, and that's one of the diplomacy through culture, it's a dialogue facilitator. It's about how do you engage with people. Always the problem of diplomacy is that it's still a face-to-face world. You need to build trust. You need to build, dialogue, even if it's small talk. Remember the famous scene, and it was a lot of flack in the media for both sides, the famous stroll in the park by Secretary of State John Kerry and Foreign Minister Dr. Javad Zarif of Iran. There was a lot of, and really it was also in the Iranian press. He was accused of, being too friendly with the enemy. By the way, Dr. Zarif is a graduate of Denver University School of International Studies, and he was studying under Ambassador Joseph Korbel, who is better known as Madeleine Albright's father, former Czechoslovak ambassador into Belgrade. Yeah, so we speak about multiculturalism. Second and third point is, and my colleague and friend Daniela Zaharia was speaking about universities as diplomatic tools. There are also universities and alumni networks are also networks of trust. We still have in our country, in this forgotten part of the Balkans, a saying, you have to know someone that knows someone. And that's one of the uses of alumni network. Last point, because I promised my friend and former boss, he used to be the Director General of the Diplomatic Institute, to be short, is what I call the culture of diplomacy. And that's a new thing. It's coming. In fact, we know the birth date is when President Woodrow Wilson held the address before both houses of the Congress in the United States, the so-called 14 points, is when states are not seeing diplomacy and diplomatic action or interaction as I would say, an unforeseen event at the end of a war, but putting diplomacy, and that's why I'm saying it's war by other means, putting diplomatic negotiation, dialogue, engagement before going into violence. And that's the creation of League of Nations system. Unfortunately, the United States Senate didn't ratify the Versailles Treaty, and then the UN system. It's always one of the problems, and it's one of the questions I have a certain experience as talking head on media. And one of the question of journalists is, why do you talk so much? I said, we don't talk. It's interaction and engagement. Even if you are talking from very different positions, even if you are, I would say, quarreling. You're not quarreling because it's nothing personal. To quote Mario Puzo, the Godfather, it's nothing personal, it's all business. But going back to that, you need a form of dialogue. You need what Henry Kissinger was needing, a phone number. you need to have people on your agenda. Even if they are at that time on the other side. Last but not least, soft power versus hard power. I'm very sorry to say, and I'm speaking a little bit as practitioner, even if my practice is very, very short. There is no dichotomy or dissonance between hard power and soft power. Take it as a Janus model, two-faced. It's always power. There is a tendency to put, culture before politics or dialogue before confrontation. Now, there are both of them modes of interaction of the human beings and the state. And here a little bit of pessimistical because I'm a historian by trade. But also reading from time to time some biology, I'm very optimistic because we are the species, the animal species that is the less prone to violence against each other. The rest of the natural world is more violent than the human world. And it's about, there are good uses of force. Read Michael Walzer's classic Just Wars. There are moments in which you have to exert a certain amount of violence in order to save lives. It was done in 1995 in Bosnia, in 1999 in Kosovo. Unfortunately, it was not done properly in 2011, 2012, 2013 in Syria. But yes, you need from time to time a certain pressure to bring in people at the dialogue table. One final word, and I'll give the microphone to my friend Sandra Bralon. Being a diplomatist, go to the old, very old definition of the profession, is a cultural profession. It's an intellectual profession. It's not a bureaucratic, technical profession. What you need is to have a probably 10 times more open cultural horizon than the rest of people work again. It's very demanding. You have to be very flexible. You have to be not understanding in, I would say, the old paternalist British way. But to really understand whom you are talking about. You want to speak to the Iranians, read at least the Shahnameh. You want to speak to the Indians, really you have to read Kautila's Arthashastra. You want to speak to the Europeans, read, please, not only quote Machiavelli's Prince. It's about the fundamentals of the cultures of people. You can't understand China if you don't have a minimal lecture of Confucius and Mencius in classical political theory. So it's not only, about guessing what people are doing, but also to start to think like your counterpart. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor.